Hello, I'm Deborah Price, founder and CEO of the Money Coaching Institute, and this is Conversations About Money. I'm here today with a wonderful coach, Sandra McGuire, who has been a certified money coach for 4 years now, and she's doing wonderful work there in the Melbourne area. And of course, I'm sure you have clients all over Australia as well, right?
hmm
Sandra, I'd love to just start by learning more about your journey. So, how has money coaching impacted your life professionally as well as personally?
So I finished the training with yourself and a group of other graduates at the end of 2022. And after that, commenced my own business called Money Wellness in the money coaching space. And it's been a wonderful journey to work with clients, but also run my own business and learn a bit about, um, working with clients, promoting yourself, getting the message out there of the benefits of coaching. And so personally, it's been a wonderful journey to, you know, establish a business, grow it, work with clients, and find it immensely rewarding when you work with individuals who've all got different stories and see that, the change that you can help them come about and feel more empowered in control of their money and finances.
Now, I know you were a financial planner and advisor before. Is that right? Do I recall? Okay.
Yes,
And
yes. So I worked for wealth organisations and um, superannuation, which is the retirement situation in Australia as an advisor. Yeah, doing investment recommendations, products, that sort of stuff. But you know, as I've found, there's more to it than just the practical stuff.
so, what was it that drew you to integrate money coaching into your business model?
So I've always been fascinated in terms of what makes people tick and do what they do at times. And we found with, financial advice, there's a lot of regulation, a lot of complexity and cost, but also, you weren't really engaging the client in terms of what's going on for them, and while they had goals, sometimes it was just about pushing products and commission,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. But I always knew that there was something deeper to it, and
Mhm.
to get real change, you had to, engage the clients in it in an emotional sort of, not an emotional level, but really get them aligned in terms of, well, what's important to them. And while if it was just about setting a budget and sticking to it, or doing a thing, everyone would be doing it, but people weren't. So it was exploring that with them, and that's sort of where the real change and engagement happens.
So now that you have been a money coach for this period of time, what would you say your favorite part of the work is now compared to what it was before you were certified money coach?
Well, I guess sometimes the financial advice industry in Australia is highly regulated,
Hmm.
very costly. And so sometimes it's only the people, I wouldn't say wealthy, but people with, a fair amount of capital could engage with it. Where money coaching can, come in at any level. And and as I said, it's more about real change in terms of, people recognizing that it's not money is very emotional. And we don't have money conversations, we don't with our family, and we're not formally educated around money. So getting people in a safe space that we can have these conversations and understand what's going on for them and why some of their current behaviors and habits are not serving them.
Yeah. So having to have those deeper, more meaningful conversations, how have you seen that change and evolve the dynamics for your clients so far?
Yeah, well, there's all sorts of different stories that people bring. We've all got our histories and our experiences and the stories and beliefs we hold about, what's going on. But it is rewarding once you see people acknowledge that and, be prepared to. We talk about the small but significant steps to engage and sometimes they've got awareness of what's going on in the background and but they're not sure what to do about it, and other times they're um, oblivious to it. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a client that I had was earning six figures, good money, was doing really well, but was really in the it's never enough scarcity mindset and always stressed and anxious. And when we got into it, we discovered that she was still um, in the mindset of I'm a poor university college student eating eating noodles and hiding my bills in the drawer,
Yeah.
and and hadn't moved on from that.
Yeah. So some pattern from the past got stuck and she couldn't quite move forward until she understood that's what she was doing, right?
Yeah, and then yeah, so obviously we talked about her feelings and where they might be come from and some of her past experience, and yes, that was still there, and in her mind, that was still her situation where it clearly wasn't. um, but just having the time and the space to have those conversations and make her feel comfortable that okay, that's going on, but um, what can I what steps can I take to, what do we say, think, feel, and do to, recognize that pattern's not working for me anymore. What can I replace it with, or steps can I take?
Yeah. It's always amazing to me, how little people really understand themselves when it comes to money. Like, people will come in and they'll have a particular dynamic. They'll say, "Well, I think I just need to get organized with money," or "I think I just need a budget." And what we know is that's just, if you need a budget and you haven't had one and you're in your 40s or even 30s or beyond, there's a reason why you haven't done that. And or if you just need to get organized and you think that's going to solve everything, the fact is there's a reason why you haven't done that. And that's the thing that I always help people or want people to become curious for, is that the things we haven't been doing aren't because we're not capable. And sometimes not even because we don't know how. It's because something underneath has actually prevented us from doing it. That is a subconscious pattern behavior or something that is literally driving the person's capacity to make a different choice and do something different. And until you name that, it's very difficult for people to make that change. I'm curious what you've experienced around that, with your own clients.
Yeah, well, it is, as you say, having that awareness. Obviously they've reached out for support. They're uncomfortable, but they may have awareness, but not of stories or behaviors going on, but they're not sure what to do about it, or how to change it, or sometimes they just haven't had that awareness now. And and as we would know, it's not just about money. That's probably playing out in other parts of their life as well, that through our childhood or through experiences that we've had, we've created stories in our heads. Um, and we think we're rational, logical people, but we're not. We know that a lot of decision making, goes on in our subconscious brain. So um, bringing the awareness to them if they don't already have it, but then also through the coaching framework, having the safe space for us to have those conversations, and as we said, we'll work out, well, that's not serving you anymore, or does that story still apply? Is it still real? And what can we do to support you, and actions you can put in place with our encouragement and accountability to make those changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So Are you still actively managing money as well and doing the full financial planning, or are you more now on the behavioral side of money? And tell me a little bit more about what your practice looks like today.
All right. So within Australia, to give financial product advice or investment advice, you need to be a licensed financial advisor on they call it Australian Security Commission's license. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
previously had a license. I don't um, anymore because, as I said, it's highly regulated, and you know,
Hmm.
um, one of my frustrations, and probably the thing that I went to money coaching for, was, you can't make an investment recommendation or a product switch without writing a 20-page report, and
Oh,
you've got to
wow.
say this and you've got to say that, and it costs the clients thousands of dollars,
Wow.
but it doesn't really serve them. We know that there were some financial advisors a few years ago who did
Sure.
the wrong thing, and so the government's come in and completely gone the other way and over-regulated it. So it doesn't serve the client at the end of the day. So um,
Yeah.
yes, so while I do the money mindset, the coaching, the behavioral work,
Hmm.
as a money coach, I can give general information and practical advice around cash flow, budgeting,
Hmm.
that sort of stuff without, I can give information about different investments and say, here's the things to consider, pros and cons, but you go away and you make the decision rather than
Right.
advice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And you're not selling
mostly.
any products anymore either, so you're just
No,
giving
no, I'm not
very
allowed to sell products
practical.
or recommend particular individual companies, or say put so many dollars here or there. But I can give them the information, and as I said, pros and cons. You go away, you decide. Um, but yeah, so mostly in the mindset space, and that's where we see the biggest change, obviously. And then if they want some, sort of practical advice around banking or cash flows, or education around the retirement rules in Australia and where you can access your retirement funds. Yeah, I do a bit of that as well.
So really, you're a certified money coach that does the behavioral side of money, and then beyond that, you will give practical guidance and support without investment advice or any kind of recommendation specific to investing at all. And that's
Yeah,
actually
yeah. So it's
a
more
beautiful
the
model.
education space. Sorry, yeah.
That's a beautiful model.
And then then if they want to. Okay, yeah. So I see myself as a certified money coach in that space, and a financial educator. But look, if people need that additional support, they want to make um, a large investment or access some of their retirement funds, I do have trusted financial advisors who I know will act in my client's best interest that I can refer them to.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's what I do myself and also what I recommend. So I'm glad that that's working out really well for you and that you found your niche, what really works for you. And so, when you think about, you know, our work and the growth of money coaching in the world, um, what would be some of the things that you would hope would happen in time since, our work is growing and more visible all the time, but there's still a lot of people who don't quite understand what money coaching is. And I think also the financial services industry is starting to embrace money coaching more and really see us as complementary rather than at all competitive. I mean, I think money coaching is a beautiful complement to financial advice and investment advice. So, and we don't compete with that. What are you seeing about that, and what is your hope in terms of how the industry might grow and evolve into incorporating and accepting more of the behavioral side?
Yeah, and you know, we know the impact that our work has with individuals, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I see completely capable people, successful in their own right, but avoiding money or feeling out of control about their money. And my job is to empower them and to put them back in control. And you really see the impact that having that confidence to make, the right decisions in line with what they want can make such a huge difference. So, I know the impact that the work has, but getting the message out there to people about, you know, financial advice is not just for wealthy people, who've got lots of money to move.
Thank God.
It's about, money coaching is about, as we said, making people empowered, and whatever sort of cash flow or income that they have, making sure that they're com not comfortable with it, but empowered to align their money with what's going on in their life. And for some reason, that's not happening for them at the moment. So, getting the awareness of why my behaviors or actions around money are not serving me, and um, how can I reduce some of the stress or self-sabotage that I'm feeling around money. So it is a little bit, well, I'd like to hope a more approachable or, um, way of engaging with people, um, without the complexity of, the current financial system that and advice offer that's out there.
I actually think, and I'd love your opinion on this because you've been on both sides of the fence, as have I, right? I actually think money coaching is really a portal that once a person goes through that and has this experience and understands themselves, that it actually leads them to not only making better financial decisions, but it also brings them potentially closer to starting to become planners, engage in a planning and investment process if they've not done it before. Because many people don't even go there because they don't understand it. They've got all these fears and feelings and other things that are going on inside of them. And until they actually understand that, it inhibits them in engaging in other financial service areas that could be highly beneficial to them. What do you think about that?
Uh, yeah, it is. If it was just about setting a budget and sticking to it, we'd all be doing it, but we don't. And
Mm-hmm.
people often think, well, therefore I'm not good at money, or the problems with me. And so, as you said, they don't engage. So with money coaching, and this is, something we've all got to be comfortable with, but I enjoy doing it because it delivers the results, is, going a little bit deeper into, well, what's going on, um, in there, and are there, it's, as we said, it's not your fault. There's some
That's right.
stories and habits and behaviors that we've had for a long time, which are playing out in the background. And if we can provide, in a money coaching sense, with the framework that we've got, a safe space to explore that, and if it's not serving the client, work out, well, what are the small steps and actions that we can take to address that.
I'm really glad, Sandra, that you said the words, it's not their fault. That's something that I find so important to help people understand about where they are. People often have a lot of shame and pain and guilt, embarrassment, you
Mhm.
name it, because of the way they've been. We love money, we hate money, we covet it, we, don't manage it correctly. They're all, it's a mixed bag for most people, right? But many people, I think, really feel terrible about where they've been and what they've done. And it's so important to anybody listening to this to understand that what Sandra said is really critical. Whatever your money dynamics are, we're almost always, without question, created as a result of what happened to you. It's not who you are. And whatever happened to any of us, whatever the patterns and behaviors are that were formed in early childhood, which is where most of the stuff happens in our family of origin, unless we can begin to explore and understand that content and make sense of it, those patterns just take on a life of their own and they'll get acted out, but the person doesn't understand how or why any of that happened. And until we go inside that and we explore it in a very safe way to help the person understand what happened, we can't move beyond what happened to what could be different, what could happen, and what could actually give us the sense of freedom and empowerment that we need in order to move forward. But it's so important to know that it's not your fault. However, and I say this when I'm training a lot, it is all of our responsibility to notice when something isn't working, right? And to be brave in the face of that and say, look, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I am the way that I am, but I want to understand it so that it can be different, right? And, therapy has been around for a long time, which does help people to understand the childhood dynamics that impact us all. And money coaching just takes a little piece of that specific to money and childhood dynamics and helps us understand what happened so that we can move beyond those feelings of guilt or whatever it is that we've accumulated and understand that while it may not be your fault, we can work together to do it differently. And
Mm.
I mean, I know that's what you're doing, and I'm so excited that you're one of us out there doing that work.
Yeah, and it is, as we say, getting clients to have that awareness.
Yeah,
We think we're logical, rational people, and we're making decisions in our head, but we're not. There's drivers, as we say, going on, and we know that more than 80% of our decisions are emotional from the subconscious. But a good, we've got the money coaching framework, but a good coach will,
yeah,
as we say, make the client comfortable, provide a safe space to have these conversations. And, you know, sometimes they're uncomfortable,
yeah,
but that's where real change happens when we acknowledge that, you know, these things that are going on in the background and
right,
driving us, driving some of our decisions, but not um, serving us. So how can we, in a safe way, and as you said, we need to have these conversations. We don't talk about money a lot. It's still a bit of a taboo subject with our
yeah,
family and friends. So, a good coach will say, well, let's open up. There's no judgment. There's no, as coaches, we've seen a lot of things. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to give you a hard
right.
time for
That's
mistakes
right.
you've made in the past. We're going to have these safe conversations, and um, the only way for change is to admit what might be going on, and then identify small actions to take to
Yeah,
change that. We're not going to put a big change in, all at
overnight.
once.
Right. No.
Having little actions and trusting yourself and building momentum too.
Yeah.
But the first step is awareness as well.
And don't you find anyway, people might feel in the beginning a little, you know, uncomfortable. The word you use is really right. Uncomfortable about opening up. But once they do, they aren't uncomfortable at all, and they are so happy to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, they haven't had that support or that
That's right.
framework before, and as we said, it's um, s- still one of those taboo subjects we don't often talk about. We're hearing things for the first time that they haven't even discussed with their partners and their family because um, they've one of the stories might be they're religious and money is evil almost. You
Yeah.
can't go to heaven if
Yeah.
you're a rich person. um so there's a lot, if that, but yeah, as I said, as a good coach, we build that trust and that space, and be a good listener. And then, as you say, we often it's really interesting. You hear about their life stories.
Yeah, it was really funny because I have a new class that I just started training this last week, and the coaches in the class were going, boy, I'm just not sure. How are we going to get people to talk about this stuff? I'm worried that that's not going to work. And I said, oh, trust me. Once you open up the door, most people, they might be slow in the very beginning, but once you open the door, they just keep talking. And that day, we happened to have somebody come in as a new practice client, and that woman was wonderful because she demonstrated from the time that I said hello and introduced the group to the time I asked her first questions, she didn't stop talking for 45 minutes straight. And she was telling everything. She just let it all pour out. And afterwards, the students, I looked at their little faces in the Zoom room, and they were like deer in the headlights, going, "Oh my God, I can't believe she shared all that." And all you did was ask a few questions, and she just opened the door. And that's how it is, because we don't realize until we're in the space of having these conversations how much we needed to have them. I think that's
Mm.
the thing. And I'm sure you've seen that too, right?
Oh, it's fascinating, yeah. And as a coach, we've, as I said, got to provide empathy and trust and the space for
Right.
them to know that they can open up and not be judged, and we're there to support them. But that's what makes coaching really interesting. You learn a lot about people's lives, and
Yeah.
money is just um, what one of those things. I say to people, money's just a tool which gives us choices, but we've got a lot of emotion attached to it, and let's
Right.
work through that and just make sure that your behaviors around money support you, and how you align your money with your life goals. It's
And
not
with
just about
values too,
accumulation.
right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they're making decisions that aren't aligned with their greater truth and values. And when you help them to see that, because my values could be very different than yours or anybody else's, so we don't impose our values, but when you help them to
Mm.
see that they're misaligned, it's easier for them to course correct too, because they just haven't engaged in that part of the conversation yet. So that's an important part of the coaching process too, is just look at, you know, are your values lining up with your behaviors? Is a really important thing to consider. So I'm just curious a little bit more, if you don't mind sharing, what is your niche in terms of what is your uh, clientele based? Is it you see and work with just anybody? Tell me a little bit more about your client base and who you most enjoy working with.
Look, we know our work applies to everybody, but given my demographic, I'm finding that I'm working with a lot of middle-aged women
Mm-hmm.
um, who have either, they've been working for a while, earning good incomes, but don't have a lot to show for it, and now it's sort of uncomfortable to say, well, um, why is this not working for me? Or potentially, I've seen a few women lately that are sort of in a bit of a transition. They've either moved on from a relationship, a divorce, got a divorce settlement, so that they might have money but not sure what to do with it,
Yeah.
or don't have the confidence even to make the right decisions, or they're managing money for the first time by themselves. Their partner has been managing it for them, and they're very uncomfortable, and have low confidence in doing that. Um, so yeah, there's people in transition, or as we say, people approaching retirement age, or just thinking about, they're 10 years out,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? Um, and um, not having not a strategy, but having confidence in themselves, that
Yeah.
rather than the I'm never going to have enough, I'll never be able to
Right.
stop work, or um, that sort of stuff, and addressing that fear with them.
Well, that's a really important audience because, we find the research shows that when someone makes, um, they suddenly get a large influx of money that they've never had before by death, divorce, whatever the circumstances are, without knowing what they're doing, and or I think without coaching and understanding ourselves before we start to make those investment decisions. The research shows they're going to be right where they are or worse off within 3 to 5 years. All of a sudden the money disappears, and it's really fascinating and terribly tragic. So I'm glad that you're working with that audience. It's a really
Yeah,
important thing.
it's very rewarding, because we know that the work that we do can have a real impact on people's lives. And as I said, it's not about accumulating money for the sake of it, but it's having the confidence, knowing that yes, I'm working hard, I want money to go to things that are important to me, um, and I want to, have some put aside so I'm, confident or a bit more comfortable with my financial future. Security.
Yeah. So one of the things I would really like to ask you is from the standpoint of your hope and your own vision, what you're looking to impart to your clients, what is it that you're most hoping for in terms of your own vision and mission as a coach?
Oh, well, it is about, well, obviously I'm a mid-aged woman, empowering people at that age. We know the statistics around, um, women, or certainly in Australia, women in their 50s and 60s, um, lower financial literacy, lower financial confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Often, there's an interesting stat at Australia at the moment. The highest growth in homeless um, people
Population,
is
yeah.
is women in their 50s, because they've looked
Great.
after the family, they've worked part-time, or they haven't had the right confidence or advice, and things, it takes one little thing to, they lose a job or they lose a relationship, and they're solely reliant on themselves. So, the bigger vision is really to um, raise awareness, not just awareness, sorry, empower people, women, to be more in control and having confidence, with confidence and clarity in terms of what's going on, and uh, you know helping them, empowering them in the future to make the right decisions. And I really hate the term girl mass, and they're told in the past, women are not good at money, and those sort of things, and trying to work on some of that as well in a bigger picture. But it really is around educating and empowering people. And it doesn't take a little bit of information, a little bit of support can make such a big difference to people in the long term.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great mission and vision to hold. So, and I know that you're already doing a good job. So, before we end today, I just wondered if there was one piece of advice you could give anybody out there who's listening, what would you tell them about um, your own experience of this work, and that might be able to help them understand that it's not something to be afraid of? What would you like to impart to those out there that are listening?
Um, well, as we said, money has been a taboo subject for a lot of people. We don't discuss it with our family and friends. And often we think people are better off than us, but we don't know that their underlying story. And often when we start having these conversations, and I've done some group work, we go, other people go, oh, actually, that applies to me too. And so they think they're alone in their problems, and it's only them. And then you go, well, actually, um, a lot of people feel this way and struggle this way. And so let's provide a space to, ultimately, I'd love to be having more money conversations in public, and making it, you know, a subject that we can talk freely about, and not judge people. And as I said, there's often it's just me, um, but yeah, a lot of people are going through something similar, and
Very similar.
or or there's someone with a nice house and a flashy car over there, and they're better than me, but you don't know the background is, they might be up to their eyeballs in debt, or um, so yeah, having more of these open conversations, making people more comfortable, and then again recognizing that um, if we didn't have these conversations when we were young, we've just taken on, the habits and the behaviors of the people around us, and
That's right.
some of that could be good, some of it could not be, serving us anymore. And until we bring that awareness, those emotions are still driving some of our behaviors and the stories that we've got. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, thank you for sharing
getting
all
that
that.
message understood and say, well, once we've got that awareness, there are small things that we can take and actions that will compound that, can make a big difference in the long run.
No question about it. And it's not very scary, and everybody should know that Sandra's right. You're not alone. Literally, I've been doing this work for nearly 30 years, 26 with the Money Coaching Institute, and I can tell you, um, probably at least 70% of the world's population feels exactly that way. Very
Mhm,
few
mhm.
people don't actually, very few people actually feel really great about their relationship with money and feel that it's healthy. And so, however it is that you're feeling today, anybody out there, just know you're not alone. And there is help and there's always hope. All you have to do is make a decision to step into the space to begin to understand yourself at a deeper level and a decision to transform whatever isn't working. And it's not that hard. And you can do it. So,
No, and I guess that's something that I also like to put across to clients. You know, they've felt uncomfortable enough that they don't want to continue the way they are, and they've reached out for hope. But um, yeah, there are simple, um,
mm,
small ways, small changes that we can make, which can make a big impact for people.
absolutely.
And finding the right coach, some people are just not the right coach for certain individuals, but finding the right coach that you can build that relationship with and have those conversations.
Right.
Um, and I'm sure everyone that goes through the certified money coaching training, um, come from that place that there's no judgment. We're completely there to serve our clients and um, benefit them. We're not in it for ourselves.
That's the thing I'm most proud about my work in the world is I've attracted some of the best, finest people I've ever met. And, we are a community of pretty amazing people who are really committed and dedicated to serving others. So I appreciate you joining that. Could you help us today, Sandra? Tell us how people can connect with you, share a bit about, your website, et cetera, because I want to make sure people know how to reach you.
All right, so yes, my business is Money Wellness. Um, I do have a website which is www.moneywellness.com.au with some of my coaching packages available. A little bit of I enjoy being also in the financial education space, so available to speak to community groups. Um, I've done some work in schools and some corporates, and we can, as I said, getting those money conversations out there and talking about the basics doesn't have to be hard, complicated, and you don't have to be wealthy to get
Absolutely.
benefit from coaching. And then, of course, I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Money Wellness and my professional profiles on LinkedIn. And,
Okay.
comfortable to have those initial little sort of, 15-minute, 20-minute conversations to see if coaching's, um, right for them and look at people's needs before we, ask for any commitment.
Beautiful. So they can find you on LinkedIn, Facebook, your website at moneywellness.com.au.
Yep,
And so everybody reach out to Sandra. If you're in Australia, actually our coaches are global, so you don't have to be in Australia. She can see clients anywhere. So
that's right. Yeah, we're on Zoom, ready to go.
that's right. And most of us work remotely, so it's nice to be able to meet clients in person, but I have a global client base too, so most of my clients I do meet with on Zoom and it's never an issue. It's actually pretty nice. So feel free to reach out to Sandra, and for today I just want to thank you for being here. I'm Deborah Price. This is Conversations About Money, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me with
You're
this
so welcome.
conversation.
You're so welcome, Sandra. It's a pleasure. Thank you.